Good morning, all. Sean Waite with Accelerated Global Connections, the Arizona Region Captain. And today, I am pleased to bring to you someone who just simply makes an impact. Melanie is someone that you meet, and at first you're taken by her calmness. At least I was when I first met her. I was taken by her calmness and her beautiful smile and just the way she radiates. And when you start peeling back the layers, it's just incredible who this woman is, what this woman has done, and what she's going to share with us today. So first, we're going to start off with our normal good old AGC stuff. So, which we already did that one. So we're going to the next slide. So I am Sean Waite, like I mentioned, with Accelerated Global Connections. And there are, 8 of us now, I think, across the country that host these AGC talks. And the reason we do it is we want to have it so that virtually people can join us as well as our in-person events. Travis Sims is our founder and CEO. Travis has decades of experience in the networking arena with large groups, small groups, everything. And he wanted to found a company that you could build locally, but have global impact. And so that's what we do. What I'd like you to do is play along. City, state, county, where do you live? Are you attending this Are you attending this live, #live? Or are you watching it in the replay? Because we have we have thousands of different ways to watch this, and a lot of people do this over time in the different arenas. So we've got 2 different Facebook groups. You might be watching this from one of the Facebook groups, or perhaps from our website. Wow, I'm stuttering this morning. Apologize, everybody. So we've got AGC members, exclusive Facebook group, and the AGC public group, which has over 1,900 people in it right now. So if you're joining us from either one of those, please do a shout out and let us know. Next, we've got AGC Talks are going to be shown on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Vimeo, Fire TV, and Roku. So all of these different places where people are either going to watch right now or in replay. So it's a great way to network and to be meeting people across the country. Every Monday, Travis releases a new AGC experience podcast. So please tune in for that. Our sponsor today is Mailbox Power. Bo Young with Mailbox Power. You know, everybody gets emails these days. How do you stand out to your customers and your clients and your leads? Mailbox Power is a way to do that, where it's actually in the mailbox, not in the email box. If you would like to sponsor, reach out to us. Support at joinagc.com. You too can sponsor different events that we hold, whether it's virtually or in person, to get your name out and your business out in front of people. After this talk, we're going to be joining Melanie in the Zoom room, where we'll be doing a Q&A session, so you can go a little bit more in depth, and we can exchange referrals, we can network, we get to know each other a little bit better. The beautiful thing about AGC Online, it's only $1 a day. That's $1 a day, right? And that lets you go to watch any of our AGC events and be part of that online community. Here's some of my different regional partners: Lois Kofi, Amy Tyson, Timothy Chin, Becky Speed, Dustin Speed, Mark Skipper, myself, Jake Perron, Mark Dolfini, Daenerys Lewis, Josh Peters, Les Hill, Karen Lynn, and Scott Schreier. So we're growing. We want to grow. We want to be able to make more of an impact across the country, and then, as the name suggests, globally. So now I'm going to present to you Melanie Holscher. She is going to be with us today during her 15-minute time TED Type talk and share with us what she has to share. Welcome, Melanie.
Hey there.
Sorry I stuttered a little bit and got out of the gate a little rough there, but it's been a morning. So, but thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about Melanie.
So I am a sales coach. I coach a lot of sales and leadership people, have for many years. And I just love helping people get to those higher echelons. Maybe they've struggled and it's just a way of catapulting and getting there faster. As you know, coaching isn't a luxury anymore. It's how you compete in today's market. So
necessity.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my background, and I'll get a little bit into some of the twists and turns that life has a way of presenting. Mm-hmm. And that certainly has been a part of my last few years, which I'll talk a little bit about. But really, what it comes down to is how the coaching principles, no matter where you are or what you're doing in life, they help you, get to that place you want to be. And so I was able to use the coaching principles that the coaches taught me. It wasn't my doing, but thankfully it was all the people that surrounded me that helped me get to a much better place in my life and my health journey. And I would love to be able to just share some of those principles when anybody is dealing with fear and uncertainty.
One of the big things is, as a coach, and as a coach, is implementation, right? And that's what I'm hoping you'll go over a little bit in your talk, because you can have the information, you can have everybody telling you what to do, what you should be doing. You can have professionals like us helping you along, but the bottom line comes down to you need to implement. And listening to your story, I mean, you implemented, right? I mean, you took these things and you were surrounded by great people, but you're the one who still had to implement and still live it. And I think that's one of the most impressive things that I know about you, is that you're an implementer. So what I'm going to do now is turn it over to you. You ready?
Sure.
All right, everybody, here's Melanie.
So picture a boxing ring. You've got two muscular fighters that are dripping with sweat and blood. That dangerous dance of jabs and counter strikes. Who wins? It is often said that the battle is won before it begins. The prize often goes to the fighter that wants it more. It's not that different in the boardroom or on a sales call. It's easy to get things done when everything we touch turns to gold. It's easy to make those deals when everything just miraculously works out perfectly. But when that deal falls apart in the 11th hour, when our prospects ghost us, when we're just wandering around the land of no, day in and day out, that's when it gets difficult. And Henry Ford's truth bomb still rings true. If you think you can or think you can't, you're right. We get that mindset impacts outcomes on the field or on the golf course or in the ring. We get that mindset impacts outcomes in the boardroom or on a sales call. But what about the cancer center? Medical professionals have long been intrigued by the power of the will to live. Why is that force stronger in some patients? And sometimes a cancer diagnosis dictates outcomes regardless. It's too aggressive. It's too advanced. My doctors were late to the game when I was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. I had a grapefruit-sized tumor choking out my spinal column. and I had a golf ball sized tumor in my hip socket. I felt okay during the day, but at night, that's when my nightmares would start. So I literally would get so anxious and cry as the sun fell down and night came. And I felt like I was just being electrocuted. It would come in waves and it was just excruciating. I would try to sleep because I know my body needed sleep. But as soon as I closed my eyes, that's when those electrical shock sensations would start. And it was awful. I went to the emergency room multiple times and I was begging doctors to give me an MRI. And I used to say it was around Christmas time. And I would say, all I want for Christmas is an MRI. And I finally got that wish on New Year's Eve. And I didn't even get home before the doctor called me and said, get to the emergency room. They sent me to an oncologist and they hospitalized me immediately. And I'll never forget the neurosurgeon who visited me early in my hospital stay. He said, well, I've had a worse case. And then silence. He didn't say anything else, and it just lingered there. And I wanted to ask, well, what happened? But he didn't offer it, and I was afraid to ask. And his words just echoed in my head for hours. I think a lot of times we suddenly find ourselves well into our adult years, and we think that we have to figure everything out by ourselves, and we have to do it all on our own. And it's easy to become isolated. But one of the things that I have found in almost 7 years of coaching is that we're better together. So many clients skip years of frustration and they get further faster because they have someone in their corner who's keeping them focused and helping them out of their thought holes and holding them accountable to taking action. So often we get tripped up by the emotions, which are valid, but not always helpful. So when I learned that mindset impacts outcomes in sports and in business, I needed a lot of help from my fellow coaches to apply that to the cancer battle and to start to understand that mindset impacts outcomes in our health as well. So my fellow coaches rallied beside me and they helped me apply the success principles that we coach to my cancer journey. And so now I do a podcast called The Overy Jones Show, where I talk to other cancer fighters. And while every battle is unique, I've found that there's also a lot of similarities. So most of the time, there is a diagnosis, and then there is all of the baggage that comes along, the emotional baggage that comes along with a cancer diagnosis. And it is tough. Cancer hijacks our minds, and it sucker punches our bodies, but it hijacks our minds. So we have great doctors that are working on our bodies, but we're in our head 24/7. So it's up to us to cultivate that mindset that's going to get us through. So through my interviews, I learned with other cancer fighters, and I learned from other coaches a lot of ways or several ways to deal with all that fear and all that uncertainty, because maybe you're not dealing with a cancer diagnosis, but oftentimes I've noticed with all of the people that I've coached in business, fear really gets in our way. And I always turn to a German proverb that says, fear makes the wolf bigger than he is. And so I thought I'd offer just 3 quick ways to overcome fear and uncertainty, no matter what storm you're going through. So first, I was interviewing a wellness coach from the UK recently on my show. His name is Dr. Andrew Parsons, I'm sorry. And he helped with a couple mindfulness techniques that just bring us back to the moment. So a lot of times we can get in our head with all of that fear and uncertainty, and we're just worried about tomorrow. And sometimes it helps to just come back into the moment. And so he offered a tapping technique where you just tap and you just think to yourself or say it out loud, in this moment, I'm okay. And as we start to bring it back to the present moment, we realize that right now, if you're listening to this right now, you're okay. I'm okay. Right in this moment, we're not going to worry about tomorrow or yesterday. In this moment, I'm okay. And that little tapping technique is so helpful for MRIs, or if you're about to give a big presentation and go live for the very first time, that would be me. Or if you're nervous about landing a big client, just tap it out and bring it back to the present moment. Take a deep breath. In this moment, I'm okay. We don't have to worry about the next moment. In this moment, I'm okay. Secondly, I had talked to a client, and I talk about this in my book. I talked to a client who started coaching right after her husband of 42 years passed away. And I thought, why now? And I asked her, I said, why coaching and why now at this particular moment in time? And she said, I know it's going to be a difficult year, and I just need somebody who's not going to tiptoe around me and who's going to help me get through this year. So she started coaching in the fall, and right around the corner, of course, were the holidays. And I knew the holidays were going to be really rough on her. So we started talking about gratitude and cultivating that attitude of gratitude. So the assignment that I gave her, I said, come up with 22 things that you're grateful for and send them to me. And I'll never forget, she sent me an email and she said, Melanie, I couldn't come up with 22. I could only come up with 12. I took a deep breath and I knew she wanted me not to tiptoe. And so I prayed when I hit send that she would understand the love that I had for her in my response. And all it was 2 words. I said, dig deeper. About 4 or 5 hours later, she sent me back an email and she said, Melanie, I couldn't believe it. I got home and I was so thankful for my automatic lights because I didn't have to walk into my house in the dark. She said, I was so thankful for my fence because I could just let the dogs out and I didn't have to go out with them. She said, I was thankful for my vacuum. And she went on and listed all of these things that she was grateful for. And I was so grateful for her while I was in the hospital for a month, really searching for things to be grateful for. And every time I struggled, I thought of her, and I could almost hear her telling me, dig deeper. So I think a lot of times we just have to cultivate that attitude of gratitude. There are always things that we can be grateful for, and we've got to tap in to that power of gratitude. And then there comes the amazing coach, Angie Moss. Oh my, Angie is one of the most influential people in my life because she said the craziest, most provocative thing I had ever heard. And I thank her for it all the time. So I was on a mastermind group with these ladies that I do every Friday morning. And I was early in my diagnosis and I was lamenting the fact that I had cancer. And I was just having a little temper tantrum. And I was like, I don't want to have cancer. I don't have time to have cancer. My career is going great. I need to help people. And I was just going on and on and on. And Angie said, I know. I didn't want to have cancer when I was diagnosed either. And that stopped me in my tracks because I didn't realize that she had had cancer. And she said, "You know, the crazy thing is I am really thankful that I had cancer." I was like, "What kind of a weirdo is thankful that they had cancer?" And she went on to tell me how she made a lot of life changes because cancer was a wake-up call for her, and it was the catalyst that helped her make a lot of very positive changes in her life. And she ended up getting into the mortgage business and excelling, of course. And then she started coaching. And that's when I met her at Southwestern Coaching. She's a coach, and so am I. And I realized that had she not had cancer, I wouldn't have met her. And so I felt really guilty, but I was really thankful that she had cancer. I still wasn't thankful that I had cancer, but I was thankful that she had cancer. But then she said something really crazy. She said, "Well, what would it take for you to be thankful for your cancer?" And I said, "There's nothing that could ever happen that would make me thankful for my cancer." Well, she planted a seed, and that seed has blossomed to a book, to an amazing podcast where I get to provide a platform for other people to share, a subscription box business for cancer patients to work on their mindset month after month as they're going through the fight, and just the opportunity to meet so many incredible people. But I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm still not thankful for my cancer, but I have found a lot of silver linings, and maybe someday I will be able to say that authentically. I'm not there yet, but I will say we at Together We Box, we are creating a movement to change the way the cancer battle is fought by strengthening the fighter's mindset. So we're always going through storms. There's a great guy at Southwestern Coaching named Ron Alford, and he taught me that we're either going into a storm, we're in a storm, or we've just come out of a storm. And we need to prepare for those storms now. So developing that attitude of gratitude, um, discovering meditation and tapping techniques to bring you into the moment, and having other people around you, not isolating, but leaning on one another, because that is the biggest lesson that cancer has taught me. I didn't have to do it by myself. We are better together. So I really appreciate Sean and this opportunity to talk to all of you. And I look forward to our Zoom session where I would love to share some more or answer any questions that you might have.
Wow. Wow. Melanie, every time I hear your story, it I take something different away from it. It impacts me in a different way. And I know a lot of us, we have life events, we have things that when we look back in retrospect, and, Angie Moss, I mean, I love her to death. She's a great friend of mine too. And I could it's funny is I actually, when you quoted her, I could hear it hear her voice. Right. But just with what you just shared, and I took some notes, and I'd love to tell where Ovary Jones, where's that originate from? If you can share that.
My head. That's a name. I was just thinking about all of the incredibly brave fighters that came before me, my grandmother, and all the other mavericks who, paved the way and blazed the trail with their cancer journeys, because, we keep evolving and learning more and more. And the doctors really have done a great job at helping minimize a lot of the side effects. But the people that came before us, they didn't have that luxury. And so Ovary Jones, in my mind, is just a society of cancer fighters. And it's the whole concept of we're better together. We're not alone. And that's truly my message to everyone is don't try to do this life by yourself. It's meant to be lived together and to lean on one another and to lift each other up. And so Ovary Jones is just a society of cancer fighters. And, when you feel alone in that MRI or going in for that blood transfusion or in radiation, just thinking of all of those other fighters that have come before us that are fighting now or that will be diagnosed, we're not alone.
That's so cool. So we have some people commenting from the audience. Karen Lynn, one of my favorite people, even though she is from Iowa. She's joining us from Iowa. And she said, "Oh my goodness, you are amazing."
Oh, Karen.
I think that is an understatement, but I think we all agree with you there. Some of the other things is, so one of our AGC members, Dawn Bennett, is EFT tapping.
Mm-hmm.
Can you show when you say tapping, can you show what you mean?
Yeah, so it's tapping. A lot of times this is a good place right on the side of your hand, but you're just tapping and bringing yourself right back to the moment. In this moment, I'm okay. Right now, in this moment, I'm okay. And
So
you
it's like
tap.
an anchoring almost.
It's an anchoring. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You can tap anywhere, but it's a very simple EFT technique that uses your senses and just centers you right back to the moment. And, nobody is guaranteed the next moment, right? So let's just live in the present. And, right now, you're okay. I'm okay. Karen's okay. We're okay.
Very cool. In this moment, I'm okay. Is that something that you came up with or that was given, or?
That was something that Dr. Parsons talked about. And just in the course of our conversation that came out. And that episode actually hasn't released yet. That's coming, I think, next week. But, he was talking about that. And then also how to use metaphor. And, sometimes we can't describe our feelings and we don't have the words, but we can picture it in our body. And so using metaphor is very helpful too. So plus, if you listen to that episode, he has a beautiful, wonderful dialect. So
it adds to the impact.
Yes, the way he says it is much, much better. I pales in comparison when I say it.
I wouldn't say that, but when we get into the Zoom room, everybody, I'm going to ask her to share more about how you can get her book, how you can subscribe to her podcast, and then is the subscription service, the box subscription service, easy for me to say, is that live now, or is that something you're working towards?
No, it's live. As a matter of fact, I'm sending boxes out this weekend. So
very cool. Let's see. Got that. And I know Ron's family had their own battle and with leukemia with his son. Mm-hmm. And I've always loved that quote about the storms. You're either going into one, you're in one, or you just came out of one. Mm-hmm. And it's when you think about how impactful that is with how it represents turmoil, but it also represents, to me at least, that even in the storms, right? I mean, the rain brings, sometimes it washes away things, sometimes it grows things, and just all these things that we go through in life, it's never consistent. The only thing that's consistent is the change and you bringing your mindset in it. So I just think that was awesome. We just had someone else join in, Mitch Irwin, who's a friend of mine here in Hastings, Minnesota. Have to run to meetings, but I enjoyed the story. Took away some great info. Thanks. Thanks for joining us, Mitch. Mitch is mortgage loan officer, and he is just fantastic. I learned a lot from him. So looking at my notes here, talked about the box, we'll be talking more about that. What, in leaving us with parting words, what would that be?
There's hope. I wasn't given a whole lot of that initially in my cancer journey. It looked pretty hopeless, quite honestly. And without hope, everything's just dark. And, I just really had to decide if one survived, so could I. If none survived, I'll be the first. And I think we just have to have that hope. In my book, I talk about hope as an acronym: hang on, pain ends. And, in this moment,
Awesome.
we're okay. But
it is awesome.
yeah, we just have to have hope. We have to have hope.
Well, awesome. Well, I am going to send you with hope to the Zoom room where Melanie will be joining us. So I invite everybody else as I finish this up. We're going to send Melanie off. And thank you again so much for being here, Melanie, and sharing your story. And we'll give some more information in the Zoom room on how they can connect with you, if that's cool.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
All right. So now let's figure out how to get this back up to the screen. Mm-hmm. And there we go. So these are the type of things that we want to bring to our groups, right? Whether it's motivational, educational, just impactful type of things that make you think and make you reset. Because sometimes we all get in our tracks. We get in our little, whether you want to call it a gutter or a rut or whatever. And it's nice to have these things that we can look at with other professionals, other business people who are business minded, and sharing personal and being authentic and giving us things that we can apply. So we'll have our Q&A after this in our Zoom room. AGC Talks. Here's some of the upcoming we have upcoming AGC events all over the place. In Minnesota, we have the live events where you can join us in person, yes, face to face. And our Minneapolis one just was sold out. I believe it was sold out. At least it was close to sold out, with people getting together and learning. AGC Indiana, AGC Iowa, California, Arizona, Missouri, and global. We want to be global. That's the name. And fortunately, we have Gandy Wong with Global IT, who is our premier sponsor. Gandy makes everything that's going on behind the scenes, makes it happen. We're big on community, right? We want to build that community that we educate, we share our visions, we build each other up, we help each other, because as we know, in the pandemic, when so many doors were shut and we couldn't see each other face to face and we couldn't do anything, we couldn't go out and meet new customers and clients, you could fall back on your network. You always hear your network is your net worth. And during the pandemic in the last 18, 20 months, it's really been proven that you need to have those roots that go throughout the community with other people. It's only $1 a day, man. I mean, really, it's only $1 a day. Get started with us, and in November, you can visit our in-person events for free if you bring in a canned food. We're doing a canned food drive for Second Harvest Heartland to raise funds and food for the Second Harvest Heartland. So that is where I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to be heading over to the Zoom room as well. So I want you guys to join us there. And I will be signing off with this.